So I've read a story on Yahoo News, and it's regarding the ITV news presenter Charlene White. I'm not really familiar with her because I don't usually watch ITV news, but basically she's black, and the report is about the fact that she's received considerable amount of racist abuse online from people who take issue with the fact that she chooses not to wear a poppy. Now we're now on November the 5th, bonfire night back in the UK, Guy Fawkes night. But this November, of course, is going to be the centenary of the First World War, so it's going to be a big one. Poppies are everywhere. I actually explained this to my students as one of the aspects of British culture, Remembrance Day. We were talking about various things: Christmas, Halloween, Easter, and I included Remembrance Day. Well, my response to this is well, firstly, I should say she has said that she receives abuse every year, but the reason that she doesn't wear the poppy is because she doesn't want to appear to be favouring one charity, namely the Royal British Legion, over others. She actually donates money to the Royal British Legion, among other charities. So that to me is quite sensible. It's a fair enough explanation. She doesn't want it to appear like she's promoting one charity over the others. Now, you could argue that it's not just about charity, it's about remembering those who died. Personally, I wear a poppy, a red poppy. My take on the white poppy is I don't really understand it. I'm not against the white poppy, but I don't understand the reason that people say, oh, it's a pacifist symbol, because the insinuation with that is that the red poppy isn't, which I think is nonsense. But anyway, my response is, and most people tend to agree with this, it's a disgrace. No one should be bullied into wearing a poppy. I think there should be some degree of protocol for example, politicians and other public figures around war memorials for formal occasion, especially on the 11th of November itself. But for weeks around this time of year, to bully public figures like newsreaders and others into wearing a poppy, I think is just wrong. And it actually makes a mockery of the whole notion that we base the idea of the poppy on in the first place, to remember that our armed forces gave their lives in sacrifice for the liberty and freedoms of the UK today. So it's a disgrace. Those people sending her abusive messages, bringing race into it, shame on them. This woman is absolutely British. She's more British than they are, in the sense that they don't understand what British values are if they think it's about bullying someone into conformity in that way. Now, I could understand if she was very, far left and she was making very loaded political statements, but she's not. She's just saying that, in her view, it would look like she's favoritizing, which isn't a real word, showing favoritism over one charity to one charity over others. So that seems to me to be a reasonable explanation. So I think it's a disgrace that she feels that she's getting abuse for this. No one should have to feel that way, and I don't think that public figures should be forced to wear it either. Um, because really that makes a mockery of our sense of freedom of conscience. Now, people say it's not a political statement, it's about remembering the sacrifice of troops, and I agree with that, and that's why I personally wear it. But she actually said she wears it off screen. So, yeah, I just think it's a disgrace that this woman has. As for her not being British, well, that's a plain, blatantly racist statement. Why? Because she's black? Well, she was born in London, unless I'm mistaken. Um, that is a racist viewpoint. No way around that. If you insinuate someone that isn't British just because they're not white, so it's a racist viewpoint, completely racist. It's also an insult to ethnic minority troops who fought and died for the UK. So, yeah, I don't like that. I think it's a disgrace that anyone should be bullied into that position, and it's a disgrace that she's had to justify herself in that way. Um, Now, about the poppy itself, I do wear it. And it's true, it's more than the First World War and the Second World War. It's more than the Somme and the Normandy landings. It represents every conflict since. Now, someone pointed out that includes some rather less noble incidents, like certain events in Northern Ireland or other, let's say, not our finest hours, some things the British Army was involved in. But you have to look at the bigger picture. In the vast majority of cases, young men died for the UK, and they were fighting for ideals of liberty. Now, certainly, we've had plenty of controversial conflicts, but in of itself, I do think that we should recognise the bravery and sacrifice that the armed forces show. I don't believe that people should be bullied into it. I do think people should have some idea about it, and I don't think, definitely if people show ignorance or they show, I definitely think there is a case to be made of promoting patriotism and promoting recognition of the enormous sacrifice over the years, millions of troops killed and wounded over the years that they have made for this country, for the UK. But at its core, one of the most important British values is freedom of conscience. And so long as someone is not breaking the law or their views don't hurt others, then that is a fundamental British value. And I think people should respect that because there's parts of the world where people can be killed for having the wrong viewpoint. Now, I'm not suggesting there's any comparison here, but she is getting abuse and it's wrong. And it's frankly rather embarrassing. I remember a few years ago, Andrew Marr, no, sorry, not Andrew Marr, I think it was John Snow, mentioned poppy fascism. I wouldn't necessarily use that word, but I do know what he was getting at. This idea that people were sort of forced into it. I don't agree with that. Um, by all means, we should never forget the sacrifice that troops showed, but I don't think people should be forced into conformity. Definitely not. Um, Let me know your thoughts. I will be making another video specifically about centenary of the First World War. It's a big one, 100 years this year. Astonishing to think this week, 100 years since the First World War. That's quite a profound thought. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts. Oh, one more thing, by the way, I'll just add this just quickly. I don't really get the idea of the white poppy. I'm not against it, but I have heard proponents of the white poppy, and frankly, I think they leave themselves open to criticism because they make it very political. They're like, oh, I wear the white poppy for peace. Well, that's insinuating that anyone who wears a red poppy is a warmonger. I wear the red poppy not because I agree with war, but to remember those who died. I may disagree with a particular government policy. So I don't really see the point of the white poppy. I'm not against it. I just think that its motivation is misguided because the red poppy is not, it's not pro militarism. It's pro military in the sense that it's remembering those who fell. But the red poppy in itself isn't promoting any war. It's not promoting any policy. It's just the mark of remembrance. Why? Because on the fields of Flanders around Passchendaele, red poppies were growing, hence it became symbolic. So that's the reason. There weren't white poppies growing. In fact, I don't know if there are even that many white poppies in nature. I don't know about that. Maybe there are. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.